Hello, and welcome to Perio Minute. I'm Herb Weissman. I'm a periodontist here in Toronto, and this will be the first in a series of short videos where I'll be reviewing the basics of periodontal and dental implant treatment principles, and then move on to more complex modalities of care. Today, we will begin by looking at guided tissue regeneration, or as known in its abbreviated form, GTR. As often happens with periodontal disease, bone starts to deteriorate around cementum. The challenge for periodontists then becomes, how do we then grow the bone back? In many cases, GTR is the only answer. We do this by employing various FDA-approved bone graft materials and resorbable membranes. Here, in the first case that I'll discuss, we see vertical bone loss on the distal of tooth 1-4. 6 months later and 3 years later, we can still see notable stability. In the next case, we see distal bone loss on 4-1, which then regenerated after 6 months and again stable at 3 years. Finally, in this case, we show tooth number 3-6 with effercation, involvement, and bone loss, likely a result of the large amalgam on the buccal. After GTR, we again see bone regeneration at 6 months and stability at 3 years. As this diagram clearly shows, the key principle is that the more walls a defect has, the better the prognosis and the more predictable the outcome. The less walls, the more difficult the technique and the more technique sensitive the procedure then becomes, which I will demonstrate in a case shortly, in a final case. Another example is this case demonstrates furcation being filled using the bone graft technique, where there is good place to pack. We have 3 walls to pack here in the furcation. This will hold the bone nicely, and good outcomes are predictable. This final case shows a 1-wall defect where we had to get more fancy and create extra walls via an intended ridge fracture technique. So here we can see the prior to treatment radiograph and clinical photo prior to flap. And here is the intended ridge fracture technique, which allows us to create more retentive elements, which will allow us to hold the bone in place a membrane over it, and close the flap in the primary fashion. And we can see before surgery and after surgery, and you can even see an outline of the bone that we rearranged through the fracture technique and then the new bone taking hold. Hope you enjoyed Perio Minute, and I will see you the next time. I'm Herb Weissman, and have a great rest of your week.